Welcome, everybody, to our special live stream with my friend, Too Tall Toby Schnaars. Welcome to the live stream.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun.
Good to be here. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. May the 4th be with you.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Hold on a second. I got to mute my replay, my buffer.
Yes.
Yeah, May the 4th. That's right. Yeah. Good call. Happy Star Wars Day.
Yeah, I was just talking to John Hirstick earlier, and he showed me his Star Wars shirt I was wearing underneath. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
we wear some good shirts.
Yeah, he does. I saw the last episode as well, where he did the same with some Too Tall Toby merch. Yeah, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah. So definitely watch that show. Yeah, Sebastian, how you doing?
Yeah,
Sebastian, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Make sure to chat GPT a story up after this, Sebastian, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
Yeah, you gotta look at the Onshape forum posts and see his posts. They're fantastic. Every update recently he's been doing that. So thanks for doing that, Sebastian. You bring you make my heart happy.
Yeah, I remember I heard you guys talking about him before, saying that's the kind of stuff he does. So Day is here too, and Richard. What's up, guys?
Day, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. And my friend and colleague Richard Doyle, the user group guy. We just had a podcast episode drop today as well.
Yep.
LiveWorks preview happening a week after next. It's coming up. We're all getting ready for it, so I can't wait to see everybody that can possibly join us. It's going to be freaking-tastic.
yeah. I think it's going to be epic. That was Innovators Insider that you guys did today, right?
That's right. Yeah,
that's a good podcast.
Thank you.
You guys do good with it.
It's a lot of fun. Richard and I have a lot of fun. We've had you on the show. Definitely check out the Too Tall Toby episode. Back in the day, we did one as well. So
yep. Too Tallby. I think I like that.
Yeah,
do that. Too Tallby from now on.
Josh, how you doing? Yeah. Hey, Sebastian, get on it.
Yeah, CAD GPT.
What are you waiting for?
That's what's up. Yeah. Create a model for me that looks like a tree, but can hold the weight of an elephant. And it also needs to have turrets.
There you go.
Yeah. Go. Let it make the 3D model and build a bill of materials.
We got a Texan fan here.
Yeah, all day. I got that when I was on the trip down there to see you guys. Yep. I got it at it's actually made of sheet metal, like roofing sheet metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. A little souvenir from the road.
Hello.
Cool. Well, I guess if you want to let me show my screen, I can start kind of talking the crowd through what we're going to be doing today. Welcome everybody to multiplayer simultaneous 3D CAD starring Onshape. Yeah. So this is going to be pretty cool. This is really, as a seasoned CAD vet, this is something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And I know that in the world of Onshape, you guys have been doing this for years, but I have never done it, or at least not until recently, until I started really learning Onshape. And this idea of multiple users editing the same files at the same time, I didn't think it was even possible. And certainly coming from the world of standard file structure, C: file structure, that was a no-no. We just couldn't do it. Like the closest we could get would maybe be having a file that's on a shared drive, but you're still opening that into RAM. And so essentially you're creating a copy in some kind of a local cache and working on that local copy, where with Onshape being, what do you always say? It's database driven.
Yeah, fully database driven. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, well, I have a PDM system, I have a database. Well, it's all database. It's not a database of files and pointers and metadata. It's full database, meaning every transaction that you work with in Onshape is it's not sending files back and forth, which is what a PDM would do or anything like that. So it's
more like every transaction that occurs, you're updating the database, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like if you edit a feature, if you add a hole, if you add a fillet, you're actually writing back to a database, and every single one of those changes is tracked just instantly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's had the experience of using like Google Docs or things like that, right? In that magical moment where you first start seeing somebody else typing in another paragraph, right? It feels like that. right? And it's like that.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great analogy, because I think that what it really comes down to is the only time things really get dicey in, say, a Google spreadsheet, the only time things really get dicey is when you're editing the exact same cell at the exact same time. And I think that's a great parallel to what we do in Onshape, because unless you and I happen to be editing the exact same feature at the exact same time, we're probably not going to run into any issues.
Right.
And so there are going to be those fringe cases where we need to be at least a little aware of one another and what we're working on. But aside from those fringe kind of corner cases, and there's even tools in place to help with those cases. But aside from those cases, like it's not as much of an issue as maybe people think it's going to be. People think it's going to be like, well, you're going to be editing that hole and I'm going to be editing that hole, and then who's going to win? But it's like, that doesn't really happen that often. It's more like you're going to be working on the top half of the part and I'm going to be working on the bottom half, or like what we're going to be doing today. So today, what Mike and I are going to show is that I love these coffee mugs that are a little bit taller. This one says, "The best sister-in-law ever." So I'm really, really thankful that I got this mug for Christmas one year. But I really love these mugs that are a little bit taller. And so what we want to do is we want to create one of these in-house in our fictional company, and we want to create a lid for this coffee mug. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by taking some physical measurements off of this mug, and then I'm going to create the first feature in this mug. And then I'm going to invite Mike to share the project with me, and he's going to start creating the lid. And so I think this is a much more realistic scenario where we need to get this thing out the door. There's multiple sections of this thing, so let's divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And so the steps that are going to be involved in this is when I'm creating the part, I'm going to show you some advanced fillets. I'm going to show you how to insert a picture into Onshape and work from that picture to help guide you when it comes to creating the handle. And I'm going to show you how to do a loft with guides. We'll talk a little bit about the pierce command and some tips and tricks you can use when you're doing, I know this isn't a super advanced loft here, but it is a little bit advanced. Multiple profiles, multiple guide curves. We're going to be modeling half of it and then mirroring it. So there's going to be some cool tricks you're going to be able to learn from that. But at the same time, we're going to open up this multi-user environment where I'm going to invite a coworker to work with me on this project. Multiple users are going to create features on the same part at the same time. So that's going to be pretty exciting to see. And it kind of continuing this idea of working in parallel, one user could be creating the part like the mug, while the other user could be creating assemblies, could be creating drawings. Again, the end goal here is to get this project out the door before the end of the day, because we need to get it to whatever the next step in the manufacturing process.
This makes a lot of sense, and I love coffee, Toby. Almost all the demos I show are of a coffee grinder, so coffee is my life.
Oh, we're a perfect match. And then at the end, we're going to get into some Q&A. And of course, along the way, we don't have to wait till the end. Any questions you have, anybody who's out there watching, we love to be interactive in these types of live stream environments. It's really kind of a group experience. So don't hesitate to ask any questions. And, if I'm talking, Mike will be watching those questions come in. If he's talking, I'll be watching those questions come in. And of course, we'll kind of help each other out.
Sounds good.
Look at this mouse movement. It looks crazy.
You got some constellation of pointers there.
I don't think it's coming. I don't know if it is coming through. Okay, cool. Well, that's a special feature that I've enabled from my computer just for you guys who are watching today live. So congratulations.
Looks like you're going into hyperspace.
So Seam Hendricks is in the chat. Says I don't use Onshape professionally. I use HiCAD, but I'm really interested in using this. So cool. So you've come to the right place, and you're definitely going to get a chance to see a little bit of this great functionality that we can do in simultaneous multiplayer 3D CAD. So let's get into it here. The account that I'm looking at on screen right now is from onshape.com/free, totally free account. If you want to start using Onshape today, if you want to start practicing and learning 3D CAD or learning what Onshape can do, you can absolutely check out the free version. And then when you and your team are ready to move up, you can even do a trial of the professional version. And then you're going to get even more collaboration capabilities. But for starters, just using the free version. I'm using the free version today. Mike, you're using the free version as well?
That's right. I'm using I dusted it off. I haven't signed in a while to my free Michael LaFleche account. Yeah.
So everyone who's watching, if you want to do this and you've got some coworkers or some friends, or if you want to, call your mom and say, hey, mom, can you help me try out this new software? Whatever it is, you can try this out totally for free, what we're going to be doing here today. So I'm going to start out by creating a new document. I'll call this Toby's coffee mug.
Yep, totally okay to use, any kind of naming,
You know, old habits die hard. Okay.
Yeah,
There we
you
go.
can
Toby's
you can
coffee
put that
mug.
in there. You could put an emoji if you want to. It's okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So we'll go Toby's coffee mug. And now I'm creating a new document. And this isn't necessarily a single part, it's a document. It's kind of like a project. You can have one single part if you wanted to, you could have multiple parts, you could have an assembly, you could have drawings, you know, whatever you want that's going to be part of this project can all be included kind of under this one umbrella, Toby's coffee mug. And so from here, I'm going to select the front plane and begin a sketch. And this is very similar to maybe what you've seen in some other CAD packages. You know, we get in here, we create our initial geometry. In this case, I'm going to create a center line, and I'm just going to have that come up to the height that's kind of the gap at the bottom of the coffee mug. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to create some additional line geometry here to set me up to create a revolve feature in Onshape. So I'm going to use some basic arithmetic in the auto dimension functionality. I'm going to take the desired diameter and just divide it in half. I'm going to create some more auto dimensioning here. This auto dimensioning is super helpful and definitely a skill worth developing, because you'll just end up saving yourself so much time if you really, you know, take your time and hone that skill. So for example, the width at the top here is going to be 4 millimeters. This is going to be coming down at a slight taper, and then I'll close this thing off. And all I need to do now is just add maybe a few final dimensions to fully define this sketch. We always want our sketches to be fully defined. So here I'll create a dimension that actually connects to the center line or the center plane. Here what I'm doing is I'm holding the control key on my keyboard and I'm middle mouse buttoning to drag. That's a great way to kind of navigate your sketches if they're very large aspect ratio or if they go off the screen. Here you can see what I'm doing is using what's called the S key menu to access all my most commonly used commands. So instead of needing to remember, you know, 10 different shortcuts, I really only need to remember one shortcut, and I can just kind of load that up with my most commonly used commands. Another really helpful tool in Onshape. And then finally, I created that construction line in the beginning. Well, if I create a dimension that goes across that construction line, that's going to give me what's called a doubled dimension. So when I'm defining the max diameter of this thing, I can define it at a dimension that's going to make sense to people. And certainly I could use that same functionality for some of the other dimensions to get the doubled dimension, but I think this looks pretty good. I think I'm going to turn this into a revolve feature now.
Yep, turned black. You had the shaded region, told you that it was nice, fully constructed profile, and there you go. You just have to like pick the edge and go.
Yeah, that's what we want. And for me, you know, I do a lot of renaming. So we can do renaming. There's two ways that I found to do renaming. So I might call this one sketch, main revolve, and then this I would that's one way you could do a right mouse button rename. The other way is I can double click on the feature and that brings up this box here, and then I could rename it here. Are there any other ways to rename, Mike?
Well, that's those are the two places you would do it. So I often do it like right as I'm making the feature right there, because it's right there as you're making the feature.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, well, we've now come to the part of the presentation where we're ready to turn this into multiplayer simultaneous 3D CAD. So let's get into it now. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to participate in this document. And the way that I would normally do this is I would just come up here and hit this blue button that says share. Is that basically the way that you would do it?
That's one way of doing it. Another way that let's put our hat on is if we're working for Coffee Mug Incorporated, you might like ask me a question about the mug, right?
Sure.
Using a comment, right? You comment on the mug somewhere and you might say, hey, Mike, we're interested in putting a lid on here or something like that. Comments are a great way to kind of do that. And you can right mouse click on a feature, which will automatically tag it to that feature, which is a very clever way of doing that.
I like that.
And you can, just like you're in Google Docs or anything, Microsoft Office, you at somebody in. Any kind of these cloud type systems work like this, right? It's just a given. And there we are. You just, let's add a lid to the mug and add that comment. And I am going to get a notification once you hit this button to share with me, and it will share me in view only.
Okay.
This design essentially. And then
so view only. So you can now that I've added you in the comment and I tagged you there, now you're going to be able to see. Oh, look, I just saw your icon here show up. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Cool. So up here, so I see your icon there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can see the comment that came in and I can click it, and I can even double click on your face, or you could double click on my face.
Okay.
And you're going to essentially look over my shoulder.
Oh, okay. Right? So now I'm not doing anything.
the mouse now, right? So
Okay.
a lot
So
of
this would be
people,
cool if we were like on a voice chat together. If we jumped into, you know, the Slack or into Discord or something, jumped onto a voice chat,
yep,
and then now you and I can talk through this model and very clearly communicate, you know, what one another is thinking without having to start up like a Zoom call or anything. I can even just call you on the phone, right?
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
you just pick your communicative poison and go at it. But having this nice view kind of where you can see what I'm looking at. You can see even what I'm pointing at. See the cursor changes to a
Yeah.
finger, right? So, and you can just click anywhere in the screen and it would take back your viewpoint. So if you wanted to look at the underside or anything else, you just kind of take over. So it's
And
much
can you
easier
see
than
what I'm doing? Like as I'm rotating, does that
yeah,
happen on your screen as
I can
well?
double click here and now you can see that I'm following you. So
Okay.
it's not like that Sting song where, I'll be watching you and you don't know. It
Yeah, we know.
you know, right? You can
Okay.
see I'm here and it even told you.
Okay. So then I could say, hey, you know, hey, Michael, thanks for calling me. What I really would like to do is I'd like to put a lid on here. I'm going to draw the handle here on the front plane. So maybe it would make sense if you built the hinge for the lid over here on the right plane, you know,
Yeah.
something like that.
Now
And you
to
can
do
see
that,
what I'm highlighting. Even though we're not screen sharing, you could still see everything that I'm highlighting.
yeah, I mean, just to show you, I'll put my screen up here for a second.
Okay.
Um, just so you can see what my screen looks like. So my screen, I'm view only in the document right now because that's the way it's shared in initially. You share with the most conservative permission, and
Okay.
then you can give me any additional
Oh, that's
rights
cool.
that you want. But yeah,
Yeah,
you can
that's
see
cool. So
the
I'm
document.
moving it on my screen and you can see what I'm doing on your screen. That's very cool. So we don't even have to screen share. We can just talk about this. I could say, hey Mike, let's add the lid up here. You
Yep.
know, let's like I said, let's make the hinge for the lid here on the right plane. You can see right away what I'm doing. And it looks like if I'm not mistaken, in the upper left on your screen, are those Mac icons?
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm on a Mac, right? So you can see,
Okay.
here's
Cool.
my
So you're on a Mac, I'm on a PC,
yeah.
and no problem with us playing multiplayer.
Yeah, multiplayer cross-platform.
Okay, I like it.
All right, I'm
I
gonna add
like
you
it.
back as the main window now.
Okay. All right. So we discuss our game plan. We're gonna say, you know, I'm gonna draw the handle here on the front plane. You're gonna do the hinge here on the right plane. And now, what if you were to start? Can you just start modeling now? Are we good to go? Is that it?
Not yet. You need to just update my sharing permissions on the big blue share button now.
Okay, because you're view only still.
That's right.
Got it. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll do share, and then
Yeah.
here is
Those should
you.
look familiar, right? I mean, this screen looks exactly like any cloud-based sharing,
Yes. Yep.
right? Right. So if you hit that pencil, you can go from view to edit, and you can
Okay.
also tick off or on any of these really interesting choices that if you really think about it, you don't have these choices in a file-based system, C:\/ system.
Sure.
If you send somebody a file to me, you can't stop them from copying it, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't stop them from opening it in another system and exporting it. So these are much different levels of permission.
Yes, that is very interesting. So, like, yeah, that's so if I uncheck this, then you're not going to be able to just like make a step file and then take
Right.
it out of our system. Like, I could
Exactly.
uncheck these to make sure that just stays within our team.
That's right.
Okay, I like that. All right, well, I'm going to say can edit. I know that everybody's excited to see what happens if you make a feature.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what happens too if you make a feature. So here I am looking at this model. You know, I'm not doing anything on my screen. My hands are up here. And if we notice over here on the left, we can see that it's Onshape is letting us know, hey, Mike is making a new feature now. And this is really what it comes down to, this idea of this multiplayer simultaneous 3D CAD. So while Michael's going through making that feature, I'm going to just take a look at the questions here that came in. Let's see here. Question from All Day says, does the tripod in the upper right corner change the view? Yes, it does. The tripod is available. It's actually, you just click on, the little cube here, and you can see that you can use that to get into the specific view that you're hoping for. And wow, look, it looks like we've got a new feature on this model. So Mike was able to get in there, make a new feature. And like I said in the beginning, the cool thing about Onshape is that it can either be a single part file environment or multiple parts in one single environment. You're really not limited. And so in this case, we can see that Mike decided to make the lid here as a new it's almost like a new body, but really it's a new part in the part studio.
That's right. Yeah, the way it works is it's kind of like top-down modeling, right? Where you can create multiple parts together that are contextually related. You wouldn't want to do this. You wouldn't design a 787 airliner in one part studio, but yeah, you might go into the flight deck and model, several parts of a control device, a stick or whatever it might be, together because they're related. You would do that, and you don't have to split things out of separate C:\/ files when you do it this way in Onshape, because everything's a database operation, as we were mentioning earlier.
But in this case, you made a new part essentially. What about the mug? What are you able to actually add features to the mug part, like a like a flange where you're gonna have the hinge or something like that?
Yeah, totally. I'm renaming it to the mug now because seeing it called part 1 was freaking me out.
Okay, good. That's
Right
fair.
now, I can actually go in and start modeling things for the mug as well. So
Yeah, because I might be down here towards the bottom adding like I'll add a fillet down here towards the bottom, just a regular old plain Jane fillet here at the bottom. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Round that off a little bit at the bottom. And I'm down here making features. I'm here working through this part. And what's gonna happen if you're working on that part at the same time? Is everything gonna go crazy? Oh, I see a new sketch was created.
Yep. So there's a new sketch,
cool.
right? And I am extruding a new part, right here. And one other thing, let me just fix that sketch a little bit.
Yeah, you might end up with a 0 thickness there.
I rookie mistake.
Eduardo in the chat is saying, "Hey Toby, when you see branches and merges, you're gonna love it." Yeah, I've already seen a little bit of it, Eduardo, but I know that is like absolutely where I want to be. It's just like GitHub, so I'm definitely in.
But I just extruded that, and I told it to attach itself to the mug and not the lid. So when you extrude something, if you double click extrude to there, Toby, you'll see. I created a new solid and I just extruded it symmetrically, and I told it the merge scope was with the mug instead of a lid in this case.
Okay. So now that's part of this, I hid the lid here on my screen. And so, yeah, that's part of this same part. So I'm down here working in one section of this part, adding fillets, and you're up here adding boss extrude geometry, cut extrude geometry. And
yeah,
there's no problem.
No problem. Go to the version tree there.
So cool.
You see the version tree at the top? I mean, you can create versions, but yeah, see that? If you hit show changes, it'll show each individual edit and who did what and when.
Wow. Right? It even shows me hiding and showing that lid, huh?
Yeah. So everything is an operation. If you click into it, it brings you to that moment in time.
Okay. Wow. So this is like unlimited undo.
Unlimited undo forever and ever, right? Even after you close the session, right? It's the entire history tree, and you can look at it in any moment. This is not something that's available in any other system that I can think of.
So this button up here can almost be like a learning tool, right? Because in the Onshape documents page, there's a section called public where you can see all the documents that are public. And if there was something in there that you looked at and you were like, whoa, this is really cool, you could actually roll through step by step and see how the person built it.
Yeah.
Wow. That is powerful.
And you can even create versions from these and branch off, as Eduardo was mentioning. So
yeah,
you can create this instead of doing a save as copy or a pack and go, you would just branch from whatever the latest moment is or any other moment in the past and try something new from that point in time.
Sick. This is so cool.
Reality is very
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you start working on the lid. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and work on the mug. But we do have some good questions that are coming in. One question was about MBD. So you got any thoughts on that? MBD? It's
MBD, model-based definition, pretty cool subject, where you can actually have 3D dimensional information on your model instead of a 2D drawing. That's what most people would use it for. Most people in the world of Onshape still want drawings, so we didn't make MBD yet.
Okay.
Onshape. We do kind of sort of do some model-based kind of things, if you will, but I wouldn't call it like what people are asking for model-based definition. But take a look at the Well, we don't have any holes in here yet. I'm going to put some holes in a second to put a pin in for the hinge, and I'll show that later. So
Okay. All right. We'll take a
I'll
look at
come back
that.
to that.
Yeah. Model-based definition, of course, is as you said, it could be a way of getting away from drawings, but it can also absolutely be used in coordination with drawings just to give you, ultimately, like when you get deeper into MBD, what you learn is that it gives you a little bit less, a little bit less likely chance of having a failure during the inspection process. It's kind of like the inspection process isn't as rigid, but it's more meaningful the way you do the inspection. So it kind of allows you to do a more mature version of the inspection process when you really learn about MBD. So
Yeah, it's good.
not in there yet, but on the roadmap. Very good to hear.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and I'm looking here. I see some nice comments here from Patrick. I'm gonna save them for the end. I'm just gonna keep looking through here and seeing if there's any other questions or anything. Let's see here. Does anyone know if there's an easy way to export different part types like sheet metal parts for milling parts? Well, certainly, whenever you're in Onshape, you can take your files, your part studio down here in the tab at the bottom. You can right mouse button and you can choose to export. So that's going to be a way for you to. Oh, I wonder if did I somehow disable the export from me?
Oh, well, you're in a just a version right now.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So you just hit return to main up there at the top. It's in blue, or you can just click that too. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Thank you. So then if we go down here to this tab, then you can right mouse button and you can choose export. So that should get you out to some of your exporting options. If it's sheet metal, you would want to turn into a flat first, obviously, and then you could maybe take a look at your exporting options.
Yeah.
Some great discussion in here. I know you guys are discussing some things on your own in there as well. So I'm going to let you guys keep discussing. I'm not going to necessarily jump in here, but I see that you guys did, in fact, continue with that discussion. So
I love it.
All day has to drop. I'll see you later, bro. Toby, what fundamental features in SolidWorks are missing from Onshape that you would like to see implemented? I think that there was one thing actually that I was thinking about, and I can't remember what it was. So there's a
there's a lot of stuff obviously in a CAD system.
Yeah, exactly.
CAD system is going to have some things over others, I think, and since we started with a clean sheet of paper, we may have things that aren't there in the old systems, but vice versa. There are things that aren't in Onshape that might be in other systems because we might do it a different way. Or
no, you know what it was? Actually, it was something that I was thinking about earlier today when we were talking, and it was just like being able to press F2 when you go into rename. That was like
okay. What is that shortcut to rename it Onshape? Let's see.
Yeah, that was honestly like the biggest thing. That was whenever I go to the tree, I keep going to the tree and I keep pressing F2, and I'm like, oh, come on, I should be able to rename with F2.
It's Shift N.
Shift N. Okay, let's go. I like it. All right, we're going to be using that for this whole presentation. Sweet. Okay, so this fillet here is so Shift N, and this fillet here is the lower outer body fillet. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I'm happy now. So to answer your question, nothing. There's nothing that is in SolidWorks is missing from Onshape. That was the only one, and I can adjust to Shift N from F2. So we're golden there.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Okay, let's go. Here we go. All right. So I think what I'm going to do now is just talk to you guys a little bit on that kind of same topic of some cool features that I'm discovering as I go through my journey of learning Onshape. And this feature here was just a standard fillet, tangent to this face, and that was it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another feature down at the bottom here underneath the model. So I'm going to press the S key, jump into my fillet command, and I'm going to create a fillet here with a 10 millimeter radius. Now, as we can see from the preview, we are losing the original edge in order to get that fillet in place. And this is like a fillet overflow scenario. It's something that you should be aware of when you're working with the fillet command in any CAD system, and you should just kind of be aware of how the CAD system is going to respond. And in this case, you can see that the original edge is being moved in order to facilitate that fillet size. It's a little bit too large. And so if we click on this edge here, we can see that that's giving us a distance of a little bit over 52 millimeters. But in the definition of that fillet, we can see that there's an option here for allow edge overflow. I'm going to just try and zoom in here and see if that comes through on the live stream. I think it's going to. I just want to make sure I'm kind of watching my monitoring here. But you can see here that in the fillet property manager, there's this option here for allow edge overflow. And when that allow edge overflow is checked on, that means it's going to adjust that option. So if I uncheck that, you see that that edge goes back to the original distance, the original dimension here, which was a dimension of 58. That's the dimension that's coming from my sketch. So that's the first thing that I wanted to show you with fillets. I'm going to pick on this fillet in the tree here and shift N so I can rename it. And I'll call that lowermost fillet, underside fillet. And that one is using that kind of overflow fillet type. So I'll do a shift N here again. I'll call this one overflow fillet, meaning that the radius was too large for the surrounding geometry, but Onshape has no problem solving that geometry. Now, another type of fillet that you can utilize in Onshape, and see what you guys think about this. I think this is really cool. I'm going to right mouse button on this right plane here and choose section view right from the right mouse button command. And that way we can take a look inside there and see what's going on. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another fillet command here, and I'm going to add a fillet to this lower edge on the inside. But instead of this being a complete round fillet using constant radius throughout, what I'm going to do is change this option here for asymmetric. So you'll see that when I choose this option here for asymmetric, now I have two different radii. And if we look at the fillet itself, the fillet has become more of an ellipse than a constant arc. And that's another really powerful tool in Onshape. If you're ever in a spot where you need something that's, a non-uniform or non-symmetric, you don't want it to be a constant arc, or usually these are spots where you want it to be rounded, but because of other faces that are in that region, you just can't fit in the radius that you want. Well, sometimes in those spots, if you switch to asymmetric, you can get the fillet that you need and still have that kind of rounding off. So that's another type of fillet that's good to know about in Onshape, the asymmetric. And I'll call this one lower inner fillet. And then the final type of fillet that I just wanted to tell you guys about, so you know that it exists here in Onshape. I'll do a change back to my not section view. So we'll go to the turn section view off. And I'm going to hide the lid here. We can see Mike's still going through, making some great progress here with the lid and with the hinge, and even adding in a pin. That's great. But another type of fillet option that we've got is in the fillet, there's this option here for full round. So we can see that the full round option is on this other tab. And then we just pick our two sides to fillet, and then we pick this top face here. And I really like how Onshape just kind of auto advances through that process. And what that would normally do is it would round off this top face. It's going to run into a little bit of a challenge here because of this hinge being here. So I might need to roll back earlier in the design to do that full round fillet. But let's see what happens if we do that. I don't know if that's going to affect Mike or not, but if it does,
okay. It's fear free.
It
I'm not going to lose anything.
Yeah, exactly. And so we can go here and we can say full round fillet, this face, and this face. You just pick the 1, 2, 3 faces and hit the check mark. And there we go. We get a full round fillet. And the nice thing there is that is dependent on the angle of this interface here, because I put that draft on. It's not a constant radius or necessarily an easily defined radius, but it's still able to do that full round fillet, no problem. And it just kind of bases that on that other geometry. So we'll call this one full round fillet. That'll be top lip. And sometimes we want to keep this type of geometry. Sometimes we want to suppress this type of geometry. And so if we right mouse button here, we can choose suppress. And I like the way Onshape kind of gives you a line right through that feature, so you know that that's a suppressed feature. We could also unsuppress that if we want to see kind of what the downstream ramifications are. And in this case, it doesn't look like there's any. It just works.
Yep, looks like everything works. My assembly is still working. I've been building an assembly while you're doing this too. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can't wait to see that. Cool. So you're building an assembly while I'm in here building the part.
Yeah. I could see my assembly updating with all your changes while you're doing that. So there's no question about what the latest state is of a design. There's no hieroglyphic system in PDM. There's no do I have the latest version? Do I need to reload? Do I need to open and get the file? None of that enters my mind anymore.
It's just there.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, well, I guess let's get in here and start making the next feature, the handle for this thing. So I'm going to hide the lid again. I'm just over here hiding and showing these different parts that are part of this design. I'm going to go to the front plane and I'm going to begin a sketch there on the front plane. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the picture command, the insert picture command, but I'm not really sure where that command is in Onshape because I'm not that familiar with Onshape. And so what I can do is I can come up here to the upper right and you've got the search tools functionality. And so from there, I could type in something like picture, like I want to insert a picture. And then here you see it says, do you mean insert DXF or DWG? No. Do you mean insert image? Yes. So even though it wasn't even the right word, everything's been keyworded so that as long as you kind of get close, Onshape will be able to direct you to the command. So I'll do insert image here, and it looks like it's maybe in one of these fly out menus, and then I'll click that insert image to begin the command. And now I'm ready to import in this case, an image. So I'm going to import this image here, this image that I took of the what is it? World's best sister-in-law mug here. And so we're going to bring this in, and then Onshape says draw an image rectangle. So I'm going to get in here and just draw an image rectangle. And we can see that what that does is it automatically sizes the image to the rectangle that I drew. But what's nice about this is that this image does have, or this rectangle does have parameters. It is parametric, meaning that I can assign relationships to it. So in this case, I took the picture and cropped it, but I left just a little bit of a buffer around the outside. So I can include that in my dimension that in this case is about 2.5 millimeters. And then you can see I can resize the image and it kind of stays on that lower line based on that 2.5 millimeters. And ultimately I can get this thing more or less in place. Of course, you're always going to be dealing with things like distortion from perspective when you try to take photos and bring them into a CAD system. But we can mitigate that as best we can and certainly leave ourselves with a result that should work out pretty well. And so now that I've got that image in place, I'm ready to get in. I'm going to Shift N, my new favorite shortcut. I'm going to call this one a sketch image of mug. And then I'm going to once again go to the front plane and begin a sketch. And now I'm going to create some splines. And we're going to use this Bezier spline option. This is, called different things in different CAD packages. But in this case, what it means is that instead of drawing a spline by dropping in points and getting the spline right away, you create a spline by really creating kind of a polygon here. And so we've got these control points here that we can drag around in order to get the desired result. And we can also add relationships to these control points. So for example, I could take these two control points here and make them vertical. And that's going to help me when I go to mirror the handle a little bit later on in this project. And so we can drag these points around. We can add sketch relationships. We can add dimensions to these things. I don't think it necessarily has to exactly follow that existing curve. I think if I can just get it close, it'll make me happy. And one thing about Onshape that I learned that I think is really helpful is that I don't have to do these two separate curves in separate sketches. So I could just make this one curve here, maybe give it a dimension from, in this case, I'm actually dimensioning it to that rectangle that I use to size the image. And then I can also lock down a location for this thing. Actually, I want that to be from the bottom of the mug to that point there. And so now I've got a nice location that represents the very center of that handle. I'll make that a little bit higher. I think I'll make it like 62. There we go. And I've got a nice spline here, which is more or less following the handle. And now what I can do is I can create another Bezier spline right over here, and I can give this one a horizontal relationship to the original. I can give it a coincident relationship to this vertical line here because I'm just kind of following that outer perimeter of the layout image.
Smart.
And you can see here that we can get this thing into place. We can drag this point up here, get this thing looking good. That should already be vertical. I think I'll take this point and make them horizontal to kind of lock that down. And yeah, I think that's pretty good. I mean, you could always, when you're working with splines, you could always spend a lot of time getting them really, really dialed in. But I think that this is going to give us what we need for this particular project. So from there, now that I've got those two splines, you notice they're in the same sketch, but that's no problem. I can still use those as two separate guide curves when it comes time to create my loft. And so I will Shift N those guide curves. I'll call this one sketch for guide curves. Maybe, if I had a very complicated surface model, I would say for handle, because I might have more than one set of guide curves in different regions of the design. And now from here, what I can do is I can create some planes. So I'm going to create a plane here using the curve and point option. And that's going to be a plane that I'm going to create right here at the end point of this curve. And then I'm going to do another plane, this time using the plane endpoint option. So just some different ways of creating planes here in Onshape. This is going to be parallel to the top plane, and it's going to exist at this point here. And now that I've got those two planes, these would be renamed. This would be something like plane for profile 2. And this would be something like plane for profile 1. I pressed F2 again there by accident. Profile 1.
There we
So you
are.
want to rename those planes. It's always good to rename your planes. And then on this plane here, I'm going to begin a sketch, and I'm going to create an ellipse. And one thing that I noticed about the ellipse command in Onshape is that it just kind of automatically knows where the quadrant points are supposed to be. But sometimes it's still helpful to go in and drop in a point manually, and you can pick up a relationship to the quadrant point. And that can just be helpful to, in this case, to pierce that profile to the guide curve. But it can also be helpful for things like alignment. If you ever create an ellipse in Onshape and then you need to establish the alignment, you could maybe take these 2 points here and make them horizontal. That's going to help to avoid this thing from, from spinning or twisting along the loft. I mean, piercing this to the guide curves is also certainly going to help it from twisting along the loft, but just got a little something that I noticed it's a little bit different from other CAD packages that I've worked in. And then we can see here that we can add in our max dimension here for that ellipse. I think that's going to be about 16.5. That's what I measured that on the physical model. Of course, we're just using this physical model, this best sister-in-law ever, as a foundation to set us up for the custom version that we create later. And so that gives us our sketch here. Like Mike mentioned earlier, I could also rename this one to, sketch profile 1, something like that. And then I hit the green check mark. And then what I like to do at this point is right mouse button on that sketch and choose copy sketch. And then I can choose my plane for profile 2, and I can choose to paste sketch. And that kind of saves me that step of having to, to draw that extra point in there, or, anything that I already did, maybe the dimension that represents the width of that. I already have that dimension there waiting for me. And this point, I can just kind of drop right on to that quadrant point. So now I'm ready to pierce that quadrant point to my guide curve, pierce that into place, and then I'll pierce down here into this guide curve. That gives us our ellipse in that location, and I think that's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Yeah, and that was nice and quick too. So we'll call this one sketch profile 2. And let's turn that into a loft. So now we're going to use the loft command in Onshape, and we're going to say that we're going to loft from this profile to this profile in here. There's a couple ways that we can pick this profile on the inside, but in this case, it doesn't really matter where I select that profile, because I'm going to be using the guide curves to help establish this path. So for example, when I choose this guide curve here, you can see that now this ellipse is blending into this ellipse, but it's following that guide curve on the inside. And then I'll choose this guide curve here as well. And wow, that looks pretty good. Now, when I created those splines, I created a vertical relationship so that the spline starts out going perpendicular to my sketch plane. But there's an option when you're in the loft to say that I want all the faces, the entire face running around the perimeter of this loft. I want that whole thing to start out perpendicular to my sketch plane. And we can do that using this option here, normal to profile. So it's a subtle difference, but it is one that you'll notice when you go to mirror if they aren't set up to be exactly perpendicular to that sketch plane, because that's also going to be our mirror plane. So we can hit the green check mark here. We can shift N on that feature, and we can call that handle loft for mug. I think I spelled handle wrong. I'm leaving it. A little signature. So now at this point, we could use the P command to hide all the planes. We could also hide this sketch here for the image of the mug. And this is really coming together nicely. We're going to have to do a little bit of cleanup on the inside. I'll get there in just a moment. But the last thing I want to show you before we jump back to the multiplayer simultaneous is one last fillet option. And that's the option for what's called constant width. And so let's say we're going to create a fillet here with a radius of 7 millimeters. So this fillet looks okay, but you'll notice it looks a little heavier on the top and a little bit less so on the bottom. And that's because the way this handle is merging into the body is it's kind of coming in at a lot of different angles. And so even though it's a constant radius all the way through, it just, in my opinion, aesthetically, it just doesn't look good. And so what I can do is I can change this option here from radius to width. And now what I'm doing is I'm saying I want the chord width to be constant all around this fillet. And let's make that the same value of 7, just so we can kind of compare apples to apples. But I just think that looks so much better. It looks so much cleaner. And especially if we dial it down even further, if we dial it down to like 5 millimeters. Now, it is a non-uniform radius. It's a variable radius running around the outside of this to maintain that kind of chord distance. But I just think that aesthetically, you're going to find a lot of spaces where this looks really good. When you've got a lot of different angles coming together, when you've got draft coming into pockets, into corners, this is a great option to know about because it can really clean up your designs and make your designs look very aesthetically pleasing. And if you're really working with somebody who's concerned about curvature and continuity, you can even go in here under control and change that to curvature. And so now you can see that the profile is no longer an arc, but it's actually more of a spline where it's starting out trying to match the curvature of the handle here, and then it's blending into the radius, and then it's blending into this face up here, matching the curvature of the mug itself. And so that's how you can get even more dialed in with regards to your curvature and making sure that you have matching curvature. And you can't see edges as well. You know, if you hold this thing under a lot of lighting, if it didn't have that curvature continuous, you might actually see a slight seam there. This will really help to prevent that as well. And so that gives me those features, and I think that I'm ready now to mirror those features. Let's rename this one. We'll call this one constant width fillet at top of handle. Yeah, Patrick's making a good point here. It says constant width is good for aesthetics, but can be very difficult to define precisely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one of those features that, you know, you really aren't going to be able to measure it and convey it to a machinist. It's something they're going to have to do with, you know, multi-axis CNC in order to really get it correct. It's not something that you're going to be able to necessarily inspect. It's more of one of those, like, if it looks good, it is good. Yeah. Great point there. And so now the final feature that I think I need to do here is just a mirror and a feature mirror. This will be of the handle and of that fillet. And then the mirror plane could be this face here that I created. Look at that. I love the way Onshape gives us that nice preview. And there's also a trick here in the view settings where you can go to your tangent edges and say, show your tangent edges in Phantom. And that's a good way to check to see if you have any hard edges on your model. Or you can even take it a step further. You could go to tangent edges and just say hidden. And now anytime there's a hard edge, it'll show up. Like we can see here, this hinge that's got a hard edge. We can see these extra faces on the inside are a hard edge. Down here at the bottom, these are hard edges. But certainly where the handle is merging together, it's a nice smooth blend. And that's what we wanted. And I know I said that was my last feature, but I know you guys really want an encore here. So one final feature that I'm going to do is going to be what's called a delete face command. Delete face is a welcome addition to any CAD package or workflow. Delete face will go through and help you to clear up these extra faces that are sticking out. Here, I'm going to do a right mouse button and do a select other to get that face that's on the underside. So we'll get that face down there, and then we'll get this face here and hit the green check mark, and boom, Onshape was able to completely clean up that inside, and that is a mug. I think that what I would do with this is I would probably go to the mug now and say adjust appearance, and maybe make it like the Onshape green color. There we go. Hey, what do you think about that, Mike?
That looks fantastic.
That is a mug right there.
That is a mug.
Wow.
Now, I've been doing some stuff while you've been working as well. And instead of like doing it while you were in the same workspace, I was doing it asynchronously.
Okay.
All right. So I was using what Eduardo was mentioning earlier, which was the branching, right? So yeah, I didn't want you seeing hiding and showing my lid. And, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise. So go to the version tree.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll see another branch here. I needed to design a knob. I needed to make some other modifications, right?
This is pretty cool. So you branched off here. Okay.
Branched off there, and you can click in the show changes, and you can see, you know, all the different things going on.
Okay.
Another thing you can do is compare what you have on your screen with
what does this mean, though? I mean, it looks the same on screen.
Well, we haven't gone into the knob, so you're still on the main branch, and I am on the knob. So if you clicked on the knob right there, that would bring you to that branch, and you'd see that I am in that branch, and I've done some things as well.
Okay.
I also have like drawings and imported parts and stuff, but I branched after you added the photo. Like that was when I branched.
Okay.
And anything you did after that isn't showing on mine because you were on the main branch and I was on the knob branch, right? So
this could be like if you thought you might have a good idea, but you don't necessarily want to like mess up the original.
Yeah,
you could do a branch here, and then how would you get it back into the main one if it turns out it was a good idea? First of all, what did you do with this version?
Yeah, let's figure out what we did first, and you can compare. So if you click the compare button, which is below the name of Toby's coffee mug, the name of the document, you'll see a little symbol there that looks like two. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going to compare knob against main. So you click knob and click main.
Just right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Oh,
so it's showing us differences. Now at the top, you see B1 knob and main, and you see that little slider menu. Drag that slider.
oh, wow.
So I can see you've added the knob or the handle.
Okay. Yep.
You're not going to see the knob. You can see I have a hole for a knob in the top. That's showing
Yep.
in red, right? And you can see the feature list is actually showing us like, the actual diff of the features.
So it's like add remove.
The slider showing you the graphical method of seeing it. I even added configurations to this. You
Okay.
see that how there's configurations there? Tall, extra tall, too tall, right?
Yes.
So I
Okay.
can actually compare the
Wow.
different configured sizes
Oh, this is
as
so
well.
cool. This makes it so easy to tell what the difference is.
Yeah. So, and you
Yes.
can click on each one of those things in that list too, and it would highlight, cross highlight, and everything too.
See, this is my kind of coffee mug right here, the too tall version.
That's it. That's it.
And you can click on the features here too. Okay.
Yeah, so you get the details there. Yeah, exactly. It comes
Okay.
in
And then it
really
shows.
handy when you have like a feature, like a hole or a fillet. Click on the fillet. That one will constant width fillet there.
Mm-hmm.
Click that one. You can see right there. It shows you width, magnitude. Like it, if you had an original fillet that started as like a
Gotcha.
regular vanilla fillet, and then you turned it into a constant width, you'd see the metadata kind of differences between them.
Okay.
But now
Very
you
cool.
have these both on the screen. Let's say we want to unite everything I did in the knob with the main. You go back to main.
Go over here.
Yeah, go back to
Okay.
main.
Yep.
Now right click on the knob and say merge in the current workspace, because main is the current workspace. And it will give you a diff report, merge strategy screen, right?
Okay. Yep.
Now it's showing you there's some other tabs that were added. I added a drawing for the lid. I went to McMaster-Carr and I downloaded a knob, and I made an assembly.
Okay.
A knob in the assembly, and you can see I downloaded a SolidWorks part for the knob, and I can see, you've uploaded the photo to the document. And this is showing us we can merge changes in the mug and the part studio, and we're replacing, because there's nothing in the other one.
Now we're doing this all in the totally free version. And Patrick has a question here. Is it possible to add this differences view to something like a change notice or tie it into a workflow?
In the workflow, that's all part of the professional plan. But when you create a release package, you can see, you can compare in the release package, like right there. That's one thing you can do to get to the differences view.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, great question, Patrick. And that's, what we're doing here is all with the totally free one, just to kind of get you started. But once you and your team know how that's working, then you can always try the professional version to see what kind of additional functionality you get from workflows, because we haven't even gotten into that.
Yeah. So you just go ahead and merge it. I think it'll,
let's go.
if it doesn't
Too
work,
tall, baby.
all right. Yeah, there we are.
There's the
So
tall,
there, tall,
and there's the too tall.
too tall.
Oh yeah, see, that's the kind of coffee mug I need right there. I need that extra like half a cup, because I feel like I always drink the first cup, and then I'm like, I need a little more, but I don't know if I want a full cup. And
Yeah. It
this
was
is
wicked
perfect.
easy to add the configurations. There's a configuration tab on the right side of the screen, second one from the top. You see all the tabs on the right side of the screen. Sorry.
Over here. Yep.
Yeah, there we are. So the second that there was a size. So I just configured the height of the sketch, right? But you could configure other things, obviously.
Wow.
I could configure the color. I could configure the material. I could configure if I wanted a knob or not on the top, right? You can have a matrix of configurations that you can. You've used DriveWorks before, right, Toby?
Sure.
DriveWorks.
Yep.
That it's similar to that, right? Where you can have like multiple choices of different options, right?
Very cool. Very, very cool. So now from here, one of the things we were talking about earlier was that you were going to be working through and creating some assembly geometry and drawing geometry. Where would we find that?
Yeah, they're all scrolled right across the bottom there. You can see all the tabs that
Okay, mug design, lid drawing. Okay.
So I made a drawing of a lid. I didn't have to split it out as a separate file or anything to do that. I just told it to create a drawing, and I created a section view, dropped a couple dimensions on, right? Nothing fancy.
And that's that. And then
the mug, there's your mug.
Oh yeah, that looks good. Best sister-in-law ever. Right here. Okay.
And then there's the assembly. So I took the contents of the part studio.
Oh, wow.
And just insert it. Now, I could show you how maybe I'll put this together for you.
No, wait, so I'm making a change to the assembly here by opening. Are you seeing that change on your end?
Yeah, if I go to the main branch, let me hop in because I'm still on the knob branch. So you'll see my head appear now.
Okay, yep, I saw you.
And I'll go to the mug and I will follow you and I will show my screen.
Okay.
So that's my screen now.
All right, so now I'm gonna move this. Oh, and it just moves. What if you weren't following me? Does it still just move? Because I'm changing the assembly, right?
Oh yeah. I mean it's changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's all writing back to that database.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every save, every time you do something, it's in the database, right?
It's in the database. Yeah. It's starting to click. Old habits die hard.
Yeah. I mean that Control S key is, your hand is
It's right there all the time.
Tall coffee mug and drink coffee while you're modeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
all right, well, you're showing your screen now, so maybe you could show us some more cool stuff that we could do to kind of round out this presentation.
Yeah. I think we've had a lot of fun, but let's like to put this together, like just to give you I know we haven't done too much assembly stuff yet together, Toby. So to do this, it was ridiculously easy. So I'm just going to create a blank assembly. You can create as many assembly tabs as you want, right? And I can insert, I'll insert everything from the mug design studio. I renamed it mug design.
Okay.
And I can pick which configuration I want to build an assembly of, right? So I'll pick the too tall one. I'll pick those 3 items from that part studio and drop them in. Now, of course, I would call this the mug. Now, right now, it's not mated. Everything is just kind of like, out in space. Now, it came in place because they were designed that way, right? But the pin is already exactly where I want it because I designed it in place. So all I have to do is group them together like almost it was like a PowerPoint slideshow. I just group them together.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's yeah.
I mean, it's it's already
really
there.
good.
So why put a coincident and a concentric? I mean, there's no real motion on it. It's just a pin. It's static. So it's okay.
They move together, but they will move. Like if the mug is not fixed, then they will still move. Okay, it's not fixed. Okay, but they move together. Okay,
so I should fix the mug. Good call.
Yep.
So it doesn't float off the table. But this is the only thing left. You can see a little symbol here showing me it's floating, has degrees of freedom, right? Over here, this is where I want to mate it. So I'm going to use something called a revolute mate, which is like a cylindrical and a coincident. And as soon as you hover over anything, Onshape wakes up these datum looking symbols. We call them mate connectors, but just don't pay too much attention to the name. It's just I'm hovering over what Onshape thinks is good things to mate from.
Okay.
Right? And I'm finding the center of that cylinder. See, it's waking up the center of that cylinder there. When I hover over that edge, I could pick the circle itself. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same geometry. It was centered. So
okay,
I find that. I zoom in over here and I already have the pin in the center of that. Just pick that and it's done, right? So that's mated fully, there, right? So
that's it.
That's it. And
okay.
I could go into the Revolute and set limits on it, right? So I could say, it's I can have a range of motion, on it as well, right? So it's not going to go too far. And then I would insert. So I went to McMaster-Carr just while we were waiting and downloaded a.
You did all this while I was making the mug, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing in here that was pre-cooked.
No, nothing pre-cooked.
This is so cool.
Knob and did that, and we'll insert that knob that I had grabbed in the other studio here, and I'll snap that right on. So this is a fasten mate. It's all the degrees of freedom. I just need to flip it, but that's it. That's fully mated, to it now, right? And bill of materials. So let's go over here and add a name, material, mass, vendor. We'll remove that. But you see what we got in here. So the BOM and the assembly are one and the same, right? In Onshape. There they are. There's the mass. Because I had set the material and the parts too while you were working on the mug, right?
That's cool. So one person could be doing the geometry and the other person can kind of be going through doing the metadata.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And how much is this? It's 941 grams. Did we meet the Too Tall Toby challenge?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great.
Well done.
You know how long I've been waiting to hear that, Toby? Oh my gosh.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah. So, all this metadata stuff, custom properties, you can add, to this. It's pretty easy. On the professional plan, you can just have it automatically assign part numbers and have drop-down lists of properties, stuff they used to have, with a PDM, right? So it's, yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, this is awesome. I think that this is probably a pretty good place to wrap it up. I mean, I think we showed everything that we wanted to show. Maybe if I could show my screen again, we can just review.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, review. But I think that we got to show everything that we wanted to show there. We got to go through and show some multiplayer 3D CAD, simultaneous multiplayer 3D CAD. During the part modeling, we talked about double dimensions, the overflow fillet, the asymmetric fillet, the full round fillet. We talked about how to insert a picture and how to make a loft with some guide curves. And then we finished up by talking about the constant width fillet. And then we got into the multi-user features where we showed how to easily invite a coworker into your space. We showed how you can screen share without having to have like a Zoom meeting or Teams or anything like that. It's just whatever you do on one screen, the other person can watch. And that makes it really easy to communicate what the desired goal, the desired collaboration is. We talked about how you can simultaneously work on the same part model. So Mike was able to add features while I was adding features, and it was no problem. And then we got into the real power of this idea of multi-user simultaneous, where one user could be creating the parts and focusing on some of the more nuanced geometry, while another user could be creating assemblies, making the auxiliary parts, downloading files, making drawings, updating the metadata. It sounds like in this deal, Mike, you were doing a lot more work than I was doing. So
I don't
thank
know
you.
about that. I don't know about that.
Thank you for carrying the
Effort,
team.
agile design, And one last thing I think we should do, Toby. We talked about it. You should make this a public model, and we can link right here in the show.
Let's do it. So we'll go into our main mug design here, and then what? Just share?
Share. Yeah, hit share. It's already a public document because it's free. So all you have to do is just turn on link sharing.
Okay.
So link sharing, you can just turn that on and
boom.
That hyperlink right there. You could just stick that right in the chat, and
then everybody's gonna have a copy of that.
It's not a copy.
Oh, sorry, not a copy. Everyone's gonna. Well, I meant everybody would have an access to the image that I took of that beautiful mug.
That's right.
All right, cool. So we'll drop this in. So I just dropped it into
why not? Yeah.
Chats.
So if anybody, they're going to get that exact point of view, that exact tab that you're looking at, and they can open it and look at it and take a copy for themselves if they want to make their own mug.
Yeah, I had to dump the HTTPS from the YouTube link.
YouTube gets angry about that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
got a little too long there, but no, that was great, and I think that's a good place for us to stop. I want to, of course, say thank you to everybody for joining us, and if you have any questions, let us know. I want to give a huge shout out to Eduardo, who I think gets comment of the day. He says it was a great example, but is this a left-handed mug? And after he said that, I kept looking down at the mug, and I kept thinking to myself, like, I think Eduardo's right. This is definitely like, you'd have to drink it here holding the handle.
No, that's exactly where you should put it, because that's where your Control S key is usually, on the left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. Wow. Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. I think this was a really cool example. Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking me through the ropes a little bit here in this whole multi-user environment. And of course, I want to thank everybody who joined us today. Amazing chat today. You guys are all amazing. If you want to stick around and ask us any more questions, Mike and I will stick around and hang out in the chat a little bit. But Mike, any final thoughts for everybody?
No, I've been looking forward to having a cool session like this too. I hope it's not the last one, and we can build something else next time. I love this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's do an airplane next time.
Yeah, full plane. Why not?
All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see everybody in the next one.
All right. See y'all later.